Hello everyone, this is Professor Keen. In the previous couple of lectures, we were talking about the 4 guidepost constellations and how these can be used to orient ourselves in the night sky. Last time, specifically, we talked about Orion and the constellations that surround Orion. Today, what I'd like to talk about is the next guidepost constellation, which is the Big Dipper. Remember that the Big Dipper itself is technically not a constellation. The constellations are certain traditional forms in which the stars are configured in the sky that form different animals or other objects, people, and so on. The Big Dipper is technically called an asterism because it's a part of a larger constellation called Ursa Major. The Big Dipper, so, is the next guidepost constellation in our survey of the sky. There's another epic story happening here, similar to Orion's tale. This corner of the sky tells the story of a damsel in distress, a ferocious beast, and a kindly stranger. As the curtain rises, we see a lady, Virgo, the virgin, lying on her back with her arm outstretched. A proud lion marches on past her with his head in the air. We can imagine the lady has swooned after her encounter with the beast. A herdsman sits looking on. Always the gentleman, he reaches for the dipper to offer the poor woman a cool drink. The Big Dipper is our key to finding these pictures. But first, let's take a look at the bright stars surrounding the Big Dipper. Remember again that I'm reading from selections of the text by Tom Van Dam and David Harriman, and they provide these nice little stories for understanding the way that the constellations are configured in the sky. I think it provides a nice parable, so to speak, for how to understand and remember these stellar configurations. So let's follow the arc of the Dipper's handle to find, first of all, Arcturus, the second brightest star in the northern sky. Then we can continue the arc from the Dipper's handle through Arcturus and reach down to Spica. Sometimes it is said that we arc through Arcturus and spike down to Spica. A line through the back edge of the Dipper's bowl points to Regulus. Let's continue our story. Boötes, the herdsman, sits near the handle of the Big Dipper, smoking his pipe. He is a witness to the rude behavior of the lion and reaches for the Dipper to resuscitate the suffering lady with a cool drink. Arcturus marks the hip of the seated herdsman. Boötes' head and leg are well defined with bright stars. You'll need a darker night to see his pipe, however, which reaches up past the Big Dipper's handle. The damsel in our story is named Virgo. She lies on her back with her arm outstretched. You can imagine that she has fainted after encountering the fierce lion. You might recall when we were looking at Stellarium software, we also came across Virgo. She is one of the constellations of the zodiac, as is Leo the lion. The main body of Virgo is outlined by bright stars. Her head and skirt are a little harder to see and will require a clear, dark night. Spica, the 11th brightest star in the sky, marks her bottom. You can imagine that Spica is a painful bruise she received when she fell. The final character in the story of our damsel is the villain, Leo, the lion. The lion causes the damsel Virgo to swoon, then marches proudly on, leaving her lying on her back, flailing her arms. The kindly herdsman takes pity on her, but the lion does not even look back. Leo has a fair number of bright stars and travels high in the sky, so even on an average viewing night, he makes an impressive sight. His rearmost front foot is marked by the weakest of our 15 brightest northern stars, Regulus. Perhaps the reason the lion behaves so boorishly is that he is sensitive about his last place in the bright star list. This now completes our story of our Dipper for a damsel in distress. If the Big Dipper is out, you'll have a lot of new stars and constellations to search for. You should really start testing your knowledge on these things.